This show, Praying at the Speed of Love, has always been a surprise. It was a surprise that I even have it. I was perfectly happy with the soul-directed life, and I know hundreds and thousands of you were too. But then with this whole prayer artist thing, it really became non-negotiable. I had to close this show that I loved doing in order to create this podcast so that we could talk about prayer. Praying at the speed of love. I didn't really know how that was going to go, or even though I said, well, we're going to have intimate conversations with people about their prayer lives, are there authors that really want to have intimate conversations about their prayer lives? It was just a walking in the dark. It was a walking in the dark. And now that the show is a little over a year old, it's just been the sweetest adventure, and every episode for me is a surprise. So the surprises are now doubling because of our quarantine, which I can't say that I decided to call it a radical pilgrimage of transformation. It was kind of a wake up, Janet, and pay attention. You know, that 3 o'clock in the morning thing? And I was awakened, and I don't know if you want to call this scolded, but anyway, I clearly heard it's not a quarantine, it's a pilgrimage. Oh, right. Oh, okay. Well, immediately the word pilgrimage triggered a memory of this spectacular, important, precious a book, The Art of Pilgrimage by Phil Cousineau. You know Phil, he's written 35 books. A fave that any creative soul knows and loves is Stoking the Creative Fires. It's like right there. And he was on The Soul Directed Life, probably at its beginning. And he's written 35 books. But when I woke up in the middle of the night, being reminded about pilgrimage, I remembered this book, which, despite the fact that I have been giving away hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books in preparation for, Janet thought she was moving to New York this year. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I've already given away. And I have right now in the garage probably 8 or 10 boxes of books to give away. When the library opens, I will give them away. And I was suddenly panicked that, oh my goddess, did I accidentally? But no. I got out of bed, went over to the books in my bedroom, and it was like my soul knew, there it is. And I pulled it out. And this is a very beloved book. This is how beloved books always look for me, that I want to find things again. But it has been a while. The original copyright is 1998 and then 2012. He probably was on The Soul Directed Life in 2013 or 2014 with the second edition of this book, but 1998. And it's been a while. So I sat down and read it slowly, digestively, in the context of our quarantine, in the context of you're not going out the front door. Okay, if I'm not going out the front door, what am I doing reading The Seeker's Guide to Making Travel Sacred, right? We're not going anywhere. This book is astonishing to me. And as you're going to hear in this conversation, to Phil too, he never intended to write a book about an internal stay at home, quarantine pilgrimage. And even as I say that, however, let me see if I can find it quickly. Huston Smith, who's such a famous professor of all world religions and a very dear friend of Phil's, He wrote the opening, the preface to the preface, the foreword. And somewhere in here, my eye isn't landing on it, he said, all pilgrimages are internal. All journeys are internal. All journeys are internal. Well, so to me, that's real confirmation that this radical pilgrimage of transformation that every single person on the planet is taking at the same time, everybody is under quarantine. So every one of us has an invitation right now to not open the front door, but to open of your house, but to open the front door of your being, of your soul. So I want to give you a wee little taste of this delicious conversation. Here's just one of many paragraphs that I underlined, marked, starred. What do we do if we feel a need for something more out of our journeys than the perennial challenges and pleasures of travel? Keep in mind, he intended this book to be how to transform your travels into pilgrimage. What happens if the search for the new is no longer enough? What if our heart aches for a kind of journey that defies explanation? Are we not in a time period that utterly defies explanation? Centuries of travel lore suggest that when we no longer know where to turn, our real journey has just begun. Does that sentence have you going, oh, right, I don't know where to turn, and I don't know what's going to happen with work, with family, with children, with the neighborhood, with the houses. My son, for example, is graduating from law school on Friday, and he thinks there might be some sort of Zoom meeting ceremony. I was planning on being in New York and going to his law school graduation. So we no longer know where to turn. We no longer know where to turn. And that means our real journey has just begun. At that crossroads moment, a voice calls to our pilgrim soul. The time has come to set out for the sacred ground, the mountain, the temple, the ancestral home that will stir our heart and restore our sense of wonder. It's down the path to the deeply real, where time stops and we are seized by the mysteries. This is the journey we cannot not take. Is that just the greatest sentence in the world? This is the journey we cannot not take. Now I had underlined that and circled it, and then lo and behold, he quoted it, that double negative, in our conversation. On episode 28, you're in for a very rich conversation with a very rich, brilliant, magnificent writer, editor, storyteller, travel guide, the host of Global Spirit. I'm sure I'm leaving out 10 more talents. But he never knew that he actually wrote our guide for this strange pandemic time. We are all on a radical pilgrimage of transformation. It's the journey we cannot not take. Well, I guess you could say, that's okay. I just want to watch a massive amount of TV, have another drink, get angry, right? You can stay numb. Humans are experts at avoiding being alone, probing inside, awakening the voice of your soul, and asking the big questions. And the big questions aren't, when is this going to end? The big questions are something deeper than that. On the show, Phil suddenly quoted Mark Twain. I don't think that's in here. But I've been thinking about it ever since. We recorded this last week before. He said that Mark Twain said, The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you found out why. You know the day you were born. On this radical pilgrimage of transformation, if you will stay awake, not numb yourself, not go to sleep, as the Rumi poem says, don't go back to sleep. If you will sit and ponder and stare at the wall and listen to the wind and pick up a pen and have a conversation with your soul, begin the journey that you cannot not take. And you might find the date of the second most important day in your life, the day you find out why. I know you're going to adore this conversation with Phil. Come to janetconner.com/28. If you forget the number, well, it's actually in the link under this video, but if you forget the number, just come to janetconner.com and you can click on any podcast, all the podcasts. He's given us incredible gifts. His publisher has given us the intro, forward, and first chapter of The Art of Pilgrimage. In the show notes, I gave you a link to purchase your own copy at bookshop.org. We're trying very hard to support independent bookstores. If you're in the United States, buy it at bookshop.org. In Canada, Indigo Chapters. I'm forgetting somebody else. We've got to do all we can to support bookstores, independent bookstores, and authors. And then, because he's such a generous soul, he up and said, oh, I'm going to give you another gift. I just received my copy in the mail as a gift from him today, but he gave us a couple chapters of this, Prayers at 3 a.m. I'm taking that with me tonight. And you get to hear him, meet him, and I took copious notes during the conversation so that you could start to do in the prayer actions some of the things he talked about. Come, take the journey you cannot not take. This is the time. This is the moment. Instead of being upset about this, what if we viewed it as a gift? What if it's the divine feminine turning the key in the door, not to open the door to go out, but to open the door to go in? Episode 28, The Art of Pilgrimage with Phil Cousineau. I promise you'll love it.